I'm Mandy, Cranial Sacral Therapist and Nutritional Therapy Practitioner. I'm the owner at Synergy Functional Wellness in Kennewick. I've been doing cranial sacral therapy for 2 decades. I was drawn to the field because of its known efficacy with headaches, and I was a migraine sufferer on a regular basis at the time. And after a lot of time of my own as a client on the table, I became migraine free. And craniosacral therapy is an osteopathic modality. It was developed by a doctor in the 70s with some colleagues of his at the Biomechanics Research Lab at Michigan State University. They were intrigued by the distribution cycles of cerebrospinal fluid through the brain and spinal cord that hadn't really had a lot of attention paid to it in the education that they had received as doctors. And they wanted to find out what would happen if they manipulated the bones and meninges around the brain and spinal cord. So they spent those 5 years at the Biomechanics Research Lab documenting, if we do this to the system, if we do that to the system, with gentle manual techniques, do we get repeatable, verifiable results? At the end of that 5 years, they had the basic protocol of craniosacral therapy put together, and then they added to it over time. And the course of study I did in about a little over 2 years to complete the full advanced training program. It was something that I loved and that I chose to specialize in, and so I spent all of my time developing my palpation skills and working on whoever was willing to let me practice, and then growing that into a business. So that was a couple of decades ago. Craniosacral therapy is really helpful for traumatic brain injuries, for concussions, for heavy stresses in life, for balancing emotions, for alleviating injuries to the body like surgeries and whiplashes, and it's really helpful for babies with colic, or for people that have had a difficult birth experience, or for babies that have tongue tie or that have a misshapen head after birth. It's really good at helping skull remodeling and things like that. Craniosacral therapy is beneficial in healing post a break or post screws and plates and those kinds of injuries. It's very good at helping diagnosis names like stenosis, which is a narrowing of the spinal column that creates a lot of chronic back pain and things like that. It's really helpful with post-athletic injuries. It's really helpful post-manual labor injuries because it helps remove tension and strain from the meninges, that 3-layer thick membrane case around the brain and the spine. So it alleviates tension there, and it also optimizes distribution cycles of cerebrospinal fluid. We care about that because cerebrospinal fluid is produced in the brain. The brain has 4 specialized areas that cherry-pick nutrients from the blood-brain barrier to design this fluid that's specific to nourishing and detoxing neurons. We want to have optimal distribution of cerebrospinal fluid throughout the brain and the spinal cord so that the nerves can receive the nutrients that they need to work correctly and signal correctly and run their end organs and systems correctly. And we also want the cellular byproducts that happen in every cell in the body to get detoxed and removed out of the system so that they're not trying to send messages to each other through a fog. And craniosacral therapy accomplishes that with a really light touch that works beneath the splint and guard response of the tissue. So it bypasses the protection mechanism that every cell and tissue in the body has, wanting to keep us safe. So it's a very light touch therapy that supports and follows tension patterns that exist inside the body so that the natural healing mechanism of the body will engage and start to self-correct the system. So in the end, you have a better functioning central nervous system. So if you're having numbness and tingling, or if you're having dizziness, or if you're having chronic pain issues, or those kinds of things, optimizing that system gets all of the messaging flowing correctly and all of the detox happening right so that your body can heal itself on its own and work well. Cranial Sacral Therapy is really effective at helping people transition from trauma. So one of the ways that it does that is it's very, very effective at increasing vagal tone. There's a nerve that exits the brainstem and runs a significant portion of the lungs and the digestive system and stuff, and it is also a key player in your alarm system, in your ability to be in either your run, fight, or flee side of your central nervous system, and also the rest, digest, repair, restore side of your central nervous system. So the vagus nerve is responsible for helping you have balance and flow back and forth between the two sides of your central nervous system for optimal function. If you've been through something that's really traumatic in your life, you're stuck typically on one side of your central nervous system, typically the fight, flight, or freeze response. So craniosacral therapy manually is very helpful at restoring vagal tone so that your body can switch back and forth with ease, the way it's designed to do, between your sympathetic system and your parasympathetic system, so that you can be responsive when you need to be, and so that you can rest and sleep and recover and restore and repair when you need to be. There's also a high level of emotional relief that you can get from traumatic experiences through craniosacral therapy, because craniosacral therapy has the ability to provide therapeutic presence to tissue that's stuck in time in a difficult traumatic place, and allow those stuck emotions, experiences to be released from the tissue so that they are not any longer stuck in the traumatic event, but they can come up to date along with the rest of the tissue in the body and not be stuck holding the driver of a pattern of dysfunction that's causing the part of the limbic system of the brain to keep recycling through, oh, but I can't do it differently because this, like a needle on a record stuck in a groove. It just can't get out of that groove until the groove is cleared out and a pathway is made so that the needle can move on to the rest of life that's waiting. Craniosacral therapy is really helpful in traumatic brain injury work because it optimizes distribution of cerebrospinal fluid so nutrients can be delivered to the injured brain tissue, so that the injured brain tissue can be rinsed and cleared and detoxed, so that the neurons can reconnect and recommunicate and repair and restore function. Craniosacral therapy can be helpful for issues with the jaw, and it can be helpful for issues like tinnitus. It can be helpful for tongue tie, any of those types of ear, nose, and throat-ish kind of issues, in that it can alleviate tensions and restore function to those areas so that those pieces of the body can function optimally the way they're designed to do. So if any of this is of interest to you and you'd like to connect and have an initial visit, you can go to my website, which is synergyfunction.com, and you can contact me there. You can also call or text at 509-460-3331.